feel so badly to interrupt you all while you're eating. But this is the designated lunch and learn time, so. Being a mom of 3, I love to read. And when I was preparing for this the last 5 or 6 weeks, there was a book that, I guess it's been about 30 years now, that I have held very dear to my intellectual being and my heart. And the name of the book is Iron and Silk, thus the title. And it's written by Mark Salzman, who actually studied here in Connecticut at Yale and graduated summa cum laude and Phi Beta Kappa, and in Chinese language and literature. So when I was studying martial arts years ago, I came upon this book, and it was very inspirational for me. And my study of martial arts, which was 7 years long, and I did wind up getting my black belt, also inspired me in my business and with everything that I do in my life, actually. So when I have been working and being majority owner of eRichards Consulting for the last 12 years, which is the company that I'm representing today, I have, for those 12 years, worked with many project managers. Some of the people are in this room, maybe. And I've learned a lot from them, and I think that I've been able to share some of my experiences in terms of helping them with their projects, programs, and their teams. So what today will be an integration of iron and silk. And as Rita Mulcahy says, and we're integrating Rita Mulcahy and Mark Salzman's vignettes from his book. And Rita Mulcahy sees iron and silk, sees project management as a science and an art. Now, I would imagine that most of you in this room are project managers on some level and have all very well educated, certified, very professional, experienced people. And I would imagine that you've managed multi-millions of dollars in projects over your careers. So you have the science of project management pretty well understood. And I think most people, at least the project managers that I speak to, don't really struggle with so much the science of project management, and maybe struggle isn't a word, but are challenged so much by the science of it, it's more the art of it. And so that's what we decided to focus today, on the art of project management. So as Rita Mulcahy talks about the art of project management, she talks about it from 3 different points of view: leadership, creative problem solving, and communication. And you all know, of course, who Rita Mulcahy is, correct? Okay, so she needs no explanation. A wonderful woman who not too long ago passed away. So Mark Salzman, does anybody in the room know who Mark Salzman is? Okay, well you will, because we're going to raffle off 2 books. So we're going to pass around a little bucket that one of the wonderful monitors. We have 3 monitors in the room today. We have Teresa, who's helped us tremendously in this whole process. Thank you. We have Thad, who's videoing as we speak. Thank you very much. And we have Ellen, who's here somewhere. So thank you all so much, and thank you to Norman Prevost, who's the president of the chapter, for doing such a great job. But this is, you can't see him really, but this is Mark Salzman. He is extremely intelligent young man who began studying Chinese martial arts, calligraphy, and ink painting when he was 13. He graduated Phi Beta Kappa, summa cum laude from Yale, with a degree in Chinese language and literature, as I had said earlier. So when he got out of college, back then, which was a while ago, as in today, he was having a hard time finding a job, and the only job he could get was through the Yale Association with China to go teach English to Chinese professionals. And one of the groups that I'll be reading about that he was teaching were the doctors at the Hunan Medical College. And he spent 2 years there. Okay, so Mark Salzman, in his stories and the vignettes that I'll be reading, some of them today, the story of Iron and Silk includes intense passion, extreme kindness, and humility. So I don't know how the word art got in there. I apologize for that. While he was in China, he studied with a world-renowned martial artist named Pan Qing Fu, and Pan did movies all around the world in martial arts. So that comes into this a little bit, so I just want to introduce some of the characters. Okay, so we have Rita Mulcahy. She sees project management as the science and the art. We're focusing on the art, the three components of it: leadership, creative problem solving, communication. And we have the vignettes that I'll be reading from Mark Salzman, which hopefully will add some anecdotal information into your thinking, your out-of-the-box thinking for project management and the challenges that you may face along the way. And I know I've been in many events like this, and sometimes I glaze over and sometimes I'm focused. I hope that each one of you today gets to take a nugget or two out with you and contemplate it going forward in your projects, your programs, and your teamwork. All right, so let's get started with the next slide on leadership. According to Webster Dictionary, this is the definition of a leader: someone who comes to the forefront in crisis, thinks creatively and out of the box in difficult situation. They say that leadership flows from the core of who we are. I cut out some of the definition. That it's really from the core of our personality. It can't be taught to us, but it can be mentored and coached. So from that point of view, we're looking at leadership, and from Rita Mulcahy's point of view, she talks about a leader needs to establish a clear vision, needs to plan, prioritize, delegate, motivate, and respect, needs to balance conflicting interests of all members and stakeholders, and needs to trust. Actually, I put in the trust, because I think that leaders do need to trust their teams. I know as an owner of a business, I do need to trust that the people I'm delegating to are capable and will carry out and do what needs to be done. Okay, so in breaking out leadership from Mark Salzman's point of view, I just want to set up this passage for you a little bit. He has spent his 2 years in China. It's been an incredible experience for him. He's studied with martial artists, calligraphy artists. He's really, taught some of the top intelligent minds of the medical profession and other professions there. And now he's heading home. And he's, at this point, homesick. So he's carrying a 7-foot-long bag that's filled with 2 swords and a saber, and he's bringing it back home. And he's at the train station, which will take him to Hong Kong, so that he can get his flight back to New York City. So he's at the official's desk, and he hears, "This bag is too long. You can't take it on the train. There's a regulation." We discussed this point for a while, and eventually the regulation was waived. But these weapons are Chinese cultural artifacts. They cannot leave China. But you can take the bag. In time, it was determined that the weapons might conceivably leave China as well. But I would need special permission for a certain office, which would require a certain period of time to secure. So why don't I stay in Canton for a few days and come back when I have that proper documentation? My flight from Hong Kong left for New York in 2 days. I was desperate not to miss it. As I walked around the train station trying to think up a new strategy, I happened to bump into a Cantonese policeman I had met a year before. When I told him my problem, he took me by the arm and led me back to the train station, where he began arguing on my behalf. He talked with the officials for over an hour about this and that, occasionally touching on the subject of my bag and its contents, then gently retreating to other matters. He eventually suggested that I give a short martial arts demonstration right there in the train station. Wouldn't that be fun, he suggested? He asked the people sitting on the long wooden benches in the station to make room for a performance. Then he helped them move the benches out of the way. I warmed up for a few minutes, took off my shoes, and began a routine. Somewhere in midair, my pants split wide open from the base of the zipper to the belt line in the back. A crowd of giggling old ladies rushed forward with needles and thread ready, followed by an equal number of old men with incurable illnesses who believed that I must have learned traditional medicine as well and could heal them. where am I? Oh, convincing the officials to let me through without delay, the policeman escorted me onto the train, sat with me until it began to move. He hopped off, wished me well, then saluted me as the train pulled off. Now, let me debrief where I come from with that passage. In this passage, Mark has a clear vision, right? That's the vision. He's got to get home. He's got to get to New York City. He's been 2 years in China. He wants to go home. He misses coffee. He misses pancakes. He misses stuff. He wants to go home, okay? And he bumps into a situation. Anybody, as project managers, bump into a situation when you're on your project and you've got your vision set and all of a sudden situations stop popping up? Anybody have that happen? So he bumps into a situation, and now he's got to plan, prioritize, motivate the officials and the team members who are the audience to get him where he needs to go, to get his vision accomplished. What does he do? He has to trust himself and his own skills. When they ask him to perform martial art, I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, to get up in front of a bunch of strangers and start performing a routine. In fact, for me, it was a very challenging thing to do. But he trusts on his skills and his ability, and he dazzles them. He gets on the train, and he makes his flight home. A PM on the project needs to show their strength, their power, and perform. The PMs that we work with, every day they go to work, they're performing. And they know that. And they have to trust in their strength and their skill sets, their knowledge base, the science of project management, and execute. So I think as project managers, when it comes to leadership, we need to trust that we have the science and the art to get the job done. Another little vignette about balancing the conflicting interests of all the members and the stakeholders. To me, this passage really speaks very much about contradicting and conflicting input. So he's talking about meeting the doctors for the first time who he's going to teach English to. First, I met the doctors, who stood up to applaud my entrance into the classroom and remained standing while the class monitor read a prepared statement that welcomed and praised me. Their English ability ranged from nearly fluent to practically hopeless. Anybody ever get on a project and notice that your team is a little bit like that? Okay. At the end of the first week of classes, the class monitor read aloud the results of their suggestions. Suggestions for better study. That's what they called it. Dear Teacher Mark, you are an active boy. Your lessons are very humorous and very wonderful. To improve our class, may we suggest that in the future we, 1, spend more time reading, 2, spend more time listening, 3, spend more time writing, 4, spend more time speaking. Also, some students feel that you are moving too quickly through the book. However, some students feel that you should speed up a little bit because the material is too elementary. We hope we can struggle together to overcome these introductions. Thank you, our dear teacher Mark. Anybody ever have this happen to them? Where there's conflicting feedback? Where maybe the sponsor thinks one thing, the team members think another, all the team members aren't on the same page, and you've got to struggle together to get, as the leader though, to get your vision executed. And I think that together with a good leader, a team can really get a job done. And I've seen it happen, our PMs do it all the time, but it's not to say that it doesn't happen without a struggle.